Welcome back to another tabletop review. Today we'll be taking a look at the Astra A-60 380 ACP semi-automatic pistol. This is the Astra A-60, made in Spain about 30 years ago. As you can see, it looks a little like a Walther PPK, but it's the more popular single-stack 7-round Astra Constable model that's more frequently referred to as a PPK clone. And while this A-60 model is similar with its fixed barrel blowback design, the A-60 is obviously thicker with its 13-round magazine capacity. Compared to the Walther PPK, the A-60 also has a slide lock release and lacks the typical PPK takedown system. As such, I personally view the A-60 as more influenced by the PPK than a PPK clone. Now recently I was at a local gun show and ran across this 13-round Astra A-60 for sale. The Astra Constable was on my wish list, but this A-60 still got my attention, especially with a price tag of $300. On closer inspection I saw the slide stop thumb piece lever was missing. Here's the broken part that I replaced. You can see the thumb lever is broke off, but the rest of the mechanism is still there and intact, and everything else on the gun functioned. Just no slide stop lever. So releasing the slide after the last shot was fired could pose a problem. Now there are some Astra models that were made without slide stops, but not the A-60 model, so this could be a problem. And while I've heard the Astra model A-60 referred to as a bit obscure, it was actually used by the Spanish Armed Forces, so I hoped it might be well supported. I'll admit though, this is the only one I've ever seen. This is probably a 90s military surplus import. Only one magazine, no box, no paperwork. The young fellow at the table told me that he had fired the gun recently and it was fine, and said that he would entertain an offer. That was good because $300 was not going to happen. A quick internet search verified my suspicions. TrueGunValue.com showed recent sales of used A-60s at only about $250. Worse yet, parts were not prevalent for the A-60, so a replacement slide stop may never be found. I have access to a shop that might be able to fashion a repair part, but maybe not. Otherwise, the gun seemed to function okay. My thoughts were at the right price. This could be a good project gun, so I made a much lower but not insulting offer, and we had a deal. And so here it is. Of course, since you're seeing this gun now with a fully functioning slide stop, you already know that I was able to find the parts to repair this gun. However, it took about 6 months of searching. Finally, I found a slide stop lever at gun brokers for about $40. Unfortunately, I couldn't find any instructions anywhere on how to disassemble and reassemble the frame components on the Astra A-60. All I had was a parts diagram. But after many hours of fiddling and cursing, I was able to install the lever and reassemble everything. I had planned to film the procedure, but to be honest, it took so long and was such a frustrating process that I gave up on the idea. And once successfully together, there was no way I was going to take it apart again for a reenactment filming of the procedures. Sorry. Note that this 30-year-old gun shows no external handling wear, and from what I could tell, minimal internal signs of use. That makes me wonder if the slide release lever broke early in this gun's life and it's just been waiting unused for repair that never came until now. Now before we go any further, let's make sure that this gun is cleared first. And by the way, if you enjoy this review, be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Astra is a well-known arms manufacturer that got its start in Spain in 1908. The company went through a complicated history while producing many reasonable quality weapons. Astra has gone through several iterations, but its name still survives today, with a firearms company based in Switzerland since 2008, primarily producing high-end rifles and pistols intended for law enforcement and military. As an arms manufacturer, Astra has a long history of producing a number of original designs and a replication of many American firearms. As I mentioned earlier, the Astra A-60 was used by the Spanish Armed Forces, so it's expected that the manufacturing standards would have been pretty high. While the A-60 and more popular Astra Constable model were influenced by the German-made Walther PP, these guns are indeed different and were usually fairly well made, with the Constable model remaining well sought after yet today. This particular A-60 has a date stamp code of N2 under the left grip, which translates to 94, the year it was made. Astra A-60s were produced between 1986 and 1997. It also has import markings from Century Arms International, CAI, Georgia, Vermont, which would suggest this gun was a surplus law enforcement or military firearm imported to the U.S., but it would be difficult to say when. What we do know is that law enforcement agencies across Europe began to switch to 9mm service pistols during the 90s, and so this A-60 was probably sold as a military law enforcement surplus probably during the late 1990s or the early 2000s. As for packaging, unfortunately this gun didn't come with anything except one magazine, but I've seen plastic Astra cases for the A-60 which would have included paperwork and 2 magazines. As for specifications, this A-60 is a fixed barrel, blowback style 380 pistol. Trigger action is double single action. There's an ambidextrous slide mounted safety decocker here, up for fire. With the hammer back, bringing the safety down will decock the hammer. There's also no magazine disconnect on this gun. There's a slide lock release lever here, similar to a Glock. Take down release tabs are here on both sides of the frame. The frame is steel with blued finish. Grips are black plastic. There's a pronounced beaver tail. Sights are snag-free steel with fixed mounted front and adjustable rear sight. Slide serrations on the rear of the slide are well defined. The hammer is exposed. Mag release is here. Magazines are 13-round double stacked. The Astra A-60 would have come with 2 magazines. Overall length is 6 5/8 inches. Barrel length is 3.5 inches. Overall height is 4 13/16 inches. Width is 1 3/16 inches at the grip. Unloaded weight is 25.4 ounces with the magazine. As for function, before I replaced the slide locking lever, I took my A-60 to the range to test it for function. The double stacked 13-round magazine loaded just fine and seated as it should. With the safety off and hammer back, racking the slide felt pretty gritty, but was easy enough with the first round chambering as it should. I like these thicker double stack grips. Nice full feel, nice balance. Although small, I like the sights, and I like the rear adjustable sights. The safety decocker moves stiffly and feels a little gritty, but with good definition, and it's ambidextrous. I don't usually use the slide stop or to release the slide, but you can see it's very light and easy to do. Trigger take up in double action mode is about 1/4 inch, and then a smooth pull until it rolls off to release the hammer. Heavy but smooth, not bad. In single action mode, there's a 1/4 inch take up, and then a light 3-pound pull. Trigger reset is about 1/4 inch with a barely audible click. Some say the A-60 can feel a bit snappy when fired, but actually I found this one fairly comfortable to shoot with cheap Remington UMC 95 grain full metal jacket 380 rounds. Remember, these are a military law enforcement surplus gun, so many have seen extensive use. A tired recoil spring could result in a higher felt recoil, but the bulk and the weight of this Astra A-60 seems to absorb the punch fairly well. It's just a good, comfortable shooter. Accuracy is also very good. Here we are at the range with the Astra A-60. This was before I replaced the slide lock lever. With target set at my normal training distance of 25 feet, the Astra A-60 feels solid and good in the hand. I decided to cock the hammer and bypass the double action trigger for now. I was curious about how this gun would absorb recoil, and actually I wasn't disappointed. There's a straight back pound to the hammer, but very little muzzle rise, so you're back on target easily. Moving to 35 feet, the trigger seems good. Good weight and balance, and very good accuracy. We have a failure here. I'm not sure if it's the cheap ammo or related to the missing slide release lever. With the broken release lever, I also had a little difficulty releasing the magazine, but otherwise, this gun is pretty good. As for cons, the main cons for the Astra A-60 are its weight and the fact that it's been out of production for decades, which probably means you can expect that parts will be difficult to find, as I experienced taking 6 months to locate a replacement slide release lever. Nor could I find any magazines. I also couldn't find any replacement springs, which could present a future problem. Worse, there's very little, if anything, to support working on this gun beyond basic field stripping, so good luck with that. There's no rail for mounting accessories, and there's no options that I could find for lasers. Also, as a .380 pistol, some would argue for a 9mm. The finish is not the best, seems a bit mottled or blotchy to me. And with an unloaded weight of over 25 ounces, the A-60 is heavy, and as a double-stack pistol, it's also thick. So it's just not a gun I'd choose for everyday carry. And let's be honest about it, if you have the option, there are certainly many other better choices out there for a carry weapon. But for its time, yep, the A-60 was a pretty nice little high-capacity firearm. Still is. And what about pros? Well, one of the obvious pros is the quality of the A-60 compared to its cost. Built to military specifications, you can probably expect a pretty good gun, and the Astra A-60 is indeed that. It's a sturdy, solid, single-double action compact and feels good in the hand. It has an ambidextrous safety decocker, no magazine disconnect. Its 13-round capacity is great, and the trigger is very good. Accuracy is also, as far as I can tell, very good. It has takedown release tabs similar to the Glock, and maintenance is fairly simple. Now, and although I couldn't find anything on disassembly and reassembly of the A-60's frame components, the process was doable, as you can see. If you have experience, patience, and persistence, this gun is well designed and fitted with good quality parts, so you've got a good chance at success. Now, while the 9mm polymer handguns appear to dominate today's market, there are those who prefer the .380, but still want a solid, high-capacity firearm. Popular high-capacity options include the Bersa Thunder Plus and the Beretta 84 BB. Or if you can find one, there's always the Browning BDA 380, or perhaps the more affordable Taurus PT 380. How does the Astra A-60 compare with these other high-capacity 380 pistols? For their price, both the Beretta 84BB and the 15-round Bersa are pretty good options in my opinion, especially the Beretta. Although the Taurus PT 380 is no longer being made, it's actually a pretty good pistol, and a used one could be fairly affordable if you can find one. I own one, so I know a little bit about this gun. It's actually better than you might think. However, after the Browning BDA 380, which would actually be my overall preference, but would come at a fairly high price, I'd go for the Beretta 84 compared to the others. Now, in my opinion, the Astra A-60, in fact, would be in the middle of these, so it's still a pretty good choice. By the way, you should know that there are a number of newer high-capacity 380 gun options out there today, such as the very affordable 15-round polymer Ruger Security 380 and the steel and aluminum 13-round high-end optics-ready Beretta 80X. All worth investigating before you buy. So let's go ahead and disassemble this gun. Take the safety off, remove the magazine, clear the chamber. With the hammer back, pull down on the tabs on either side here while pulling the slide back and up. And that's pretty much it. Reassembly is just the opposite. Small end of the recoil spring goes on first onto the barrel. Return the slide while pulling down the tabs on either side, back, and return the magazine. And that's it. As for price, Genetron.com suggests a manufacturer's suggested retail price of $475 and a used value of $355. Due to the lack of national sales data, true gun values didn't provide a value, but the recent actual sales I found suggest a realistic used value could be as low as $250. Of course, the problem is that today everything I found points to an expected sales range between $325 and $375, so the Genetron values may be more likely what you'll actually see. What's important here is that because the A-60 doesn't seem to be a very popular pistol, one can probably be found for less if you're patient and look hard. Unfortunately, you can also expect trade-in values to be low. Now, before we end today's video, I'd like to remind you, if you haven't already, be sure to like, share, and subscribe down below. And thanks for watching. The Astra A-60 is the double-stack military variant of the well-known Astra Constable 380. This compact Spanish-made pistol was chosen as the service pistol by the Spanish Armed Forces, and I can see why. Built to military standards, it's a sturdy, functional pistol with good capacity. About the size of the Walther PPK, but heavier and bulkier due to its double-stack magazine design. The slide action is gritty and the finish could be better, but it has a very smooth double single action trigger. The A-60 is an all-steel gun with wrapping plastic grips. Unfortunately, it's sad that the Astra A-60 appears to be underappreciated and undersupported. While wrapping up, a follow-up trip to the range with this Astra A-60 after I made the slight stop repairs showed this pistol functioned flawlessly. No complaints. I found the A-60 to be a pretty good .380 pistol, worthy of some respect. Although I really like the 13-round capacity and the thick grips for the range, I can see where this A-60 might be off my personal concealed carry list. Most double stacks are. That's where the Astra Constable model beats the A-60 being thinner and lighter. Still, this is a very nice gun. When it comes to overall function and feel, this Astra A-60 is indeed a good one, very controllable. It makes me even more interested in getting my hands on a single stack Astra Constable model. If the Constable is anything like this A-60, I can see why it's so well thought of. It's a real shame that the A-60 isn't better supported. I was frustrated that it took so long to find a replacement part and that there wasn't any information on repairs. It's a shame that the A-60 isn't more popular. In my opinion, for the money and what you get, it's actually quite a bargain. If you can find one in good shape, I suggest giving the Astra A-60 serious consideration. For me, I'm very pleased with this one. It's a keeper. Any weapon you carry is better than the one you left at home. Thanks for watching. I hope you'll be back for my next tabletop review. Until next time, stay safe.